Hi, my name's Arpi and I am a student at Stanford University. So over the past week, there's been a firestorm of news coverage on a sort of college admissions scandal. And because I'm a student at one of these selective universities, and because I have a YouTube channel, which means I feel like I am very entitled to my own opinion, I decided to share my thoughts on this whole issue. So basically, there's a large group of celebrity families that sort of funnel through this one guy who contacts the coaches of athletic teams in elite universities and sort of pays them to let his clients be recruited for that school. Now, what I think this recently unearthed scandal touches on is actually a much broader topic of the game that is college admissions in general. And this game is sort of played by a combination of privileges, advantages, and also a fair amount of luck. So in order to organize my thoughts and visualize them like a video game, I've decided to order them in a sort of tier list based on your advantages, privileges, and also the sort of luck that you have within this game. But before we even get into the tier list, there's already an unfair part of this game, and that's just the knowledge gap in general.
This is the shine up beat. This is the shine, which means it will not be, but he gets it.
Now, as it turns out, college admissions at selective universities is really complex. There's a lot of factors that you have to know a lot about. And if you want the best chance of getting in, you have to know how to apply correctly. Now, I didn't know any of this until junior year of high school when I stumbled across a website called College Confidential. And from College Confidential, I sort of went down the rabbit hole of college admissions on the internet, including subreddits, YouTube channels, and other websites. These sort of websites guide you on how to write your essays, how to study for the SAT, how to frame yourself well in your essays, and really sort of give yourself the best shot of getting into college. But unless you've heard about these things, it's really hard to know exactly what you're doing. So now that you've sort of read up on what college admissions are and how exactly they work, you are now allowed to sort of play the game. But once you start the game, you are sorted into these tiers. And I'd like to break down the tiers into 4 categories. Now, tier 1 would be the super rich people, like the people on the news recently, like that celebrity from Full House who paid $500,000 to get her kids into USC.
I can't believe it. Stanford is the only school I ever wanted to go to.
I'm sorry you didn't make it, Deej. You should have done what I did when I applied there. Include a crisp $20 bill with the application.
Also in this category are kids who have their families donate millions of dollars to that specific university or donate a building or other things like that. And another sort of applicant that I put in this pool would be people who are so rich that they can use their parents' money to sort of boost their resume by like starting a company off their parents' money or funding trips that also make them look good. Now, some people may think it stops there, that the sort of unfair admission stops at the people who literally bribe their way into school. But in my opinion, there are other categories that help you get into colleges. Now, in this category, I'd put applicants who are able to pay for the SAT or ACT. And when I mean pay, I don't mean getting tutors or getting help. I mean, they can literally buy the test beforehand. And now a couple of my friends in an international high school in Korea have told me that because the ACT and SAT have to be shipped overseas, some families can actually pay to get the tests early before the actual test day. So their kids can sort of go through the test, practice them, memorize them, and on the actual test get a perfect score because they already knew it. Now, in this same category, I'd put people who use college consulting. Now, if you don't know, college consulting is a pretty big business out there. Basically, they have professionals sort of look at you as a student and help guide your entire high school career to help you get into college. Now, a big example of this is Solomon Consulting, which is actually a channel on YouTube. Now, if you look at their testimonies, they basically cover the whole thing, as in they help you throughout school with your grades, they help you study for SAT and ACT, they help you write your essays, and they also help you guide your actual extracurricular activities. One testimony that that really stuck out to me was this guy who studied linguistics in high school, and he even was connected with a linguistics professor to do research by Solomon Consulting, and he added this to his resume and applied under linguistics. But as soon as he got in, he completely switched his major to something, you know, more desirable, more profitable in the career. So basically, not only do they help you with your grades, test scores, and essays to make you seem like a much stronger applicant, they literally map out this sort of facade of your high school career so that you're more likely to get into schools. Now, below this is tier 2, which I consider the fairly wealthy. And what I mean by this is that they're able to spend money outside of just high school into getting into college. This can include things like tutoring for classes, which a lot of kids can't have. Or they could be getting test taking help from the many sort of availabilities that there are. Another option they have is paying for college essay editing. Another thing that's included in this are people who can afford summer programs, prestigious summer programs, or other extracurricular opportunities that other kids may not be able to do. Something else I'd lump in are legacy students. Now, legacy applicants are basically applicants whose immediate family members also went to that school. And at least for Stanford, the admissions rate for a legacy applicant is significantly higher than those for normal applicants. Now, of course, this isn't to say that all legacy kids don't deserve to be there, but it is true that it does offer a statistical advantage.
Fox on a bike. And there's the match. Yeah.
Now in tier 4 of my very generalized and quite umbrella statemented tier list is the not wealthy. Now these are kids who are first generation or low income or don't really have the resources or good high schools that the other tier lists have. Now in other words, outside help like tutoring is pretty much out of the question, and their high schools and their education quality is not as good as the other tiers. So in other words, it's hard for them to score well on tests and also get good extracurriculars because they just don't really have those opportunities around them. The weird thing is, and what makes this whole process so game-like, is that you can even play this part of your application, being from a low income or unprivileged background. And one of the examples that recently hit the news is TM Landry Prep.
Students told us many of their college applications included false information provided by their school's administrators. Students told The Times that the Landrys told them to lie on their college applications about growing up in households marked by poverty, crime, and drug addiction. If they refused, they say the Landrys threatened to do it for them. For the high school students, there was a singular focus: practicing for the ACT. The Landrys filled out transcripts incorrectly to reflect classes the kids say they never took and grades they never earned.
So basically, this entire school was made to game this aspect of college admissions.
Fox on a bike.
NANI?! お前はもう死んでいる。
And there's the match.
And finally, outside of all those tiers, something that sort of transverses all of them is background data. So for example, some colleges admit women in STEM at a much higher rate than men who apply. Another example would be just general ethnic and racial backgrounds as well. And then there's geographical data, like shown in this one BuzzFeed video.
The admissions officers in my files explicitly said that one of the reasons they wanted to let me in was because of where I went to high school and because of where I came from. One of them said she'd be a good admit for us from the Minneapolis public schools, and the other one was even more explicit.
Another background factor is what you're interested in studying. If you're studying something unpopular, depending on the school, you're more likely to get in. So for example, Stanford has recently been trying to push their humanities, so the admissions rate for humanities majors is a lot higher. And another example of this is Yale, who's actually looking for people in STEM because they are such a humanities-focused school.
Happy feet, wombo combo. That ain't Falco. That ain't Falco.
So I guess what I'm trying to get at this long-winded rant of a video is that the college admissions process for selective universities isn't as solid as it may seem. There are holes in the system, and if there are holes, people will try to worm their way through them. Because the demand for spots in these colleges are so high, there is a lot of gaming going on. It's not just the rich celebrities that sort of partake in this. There's a lot of different ways that a lot of other students use their privileges, advantages, luck, and knowledge to get into college. And that's just sort of how it goes. I don't know if we can really prevent it. If there's a game to be played, people will play it. Anyways, that's the end of my thoughts on this topic. Sorry that it was so long and ranty. I just had a lot to say, I guess. Anyways, thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you soon.